welcome to this week's edition of the Bodp with myself here, X. We are live on YouTube right now. Check it out at camera 1, camera 2, 3, hello, 4, and 5. And we are with one of my peers, a friend, and somebody I've known for quite a while. I met this dude quite a long time ago when I was working at Waveshare Art Collective. This is back in Monterey. And I think that was the time when I was just like painting all the fucking time, nonstop. I was also like 200 pounds lighter when I could see my feet. This dude has to be one of the main people in our area that I'm absolutely proud of, and I look at with respect, because you have people, and everybody from the people watching to people that we meet throughout all kinds of different places. They come up to your tables, they go to your seminars, they go and meet you at events, and oh man, I really want to do this. It's part of who the fuck I want to be. It's part of who I believe I'm going to be. They talk and talk and talk, but they don't actually do anything with it. This dude was quite the opposite. Like, he didn't just go and try to learn and ask questions. He went out and he fucking killed it. And the dude's traveling all over the United States and the world, getting that level. And when he reaches a new plateau, he doesn't plateau itself. He goes higher than that. And never once have I seen him have a fucking attitude. So, without further ado, Ram Navarro.
Thank you, man. Thank you for all that. It's been a minute. I remember meeting you at Wave Street. This must have been around 2010.
Yeah.
2010s. When I was just a snot nose. I must have been like 17 going on 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the fuck to... I can curse, right? So
Yeah. Fucking curse away, bro.
I didn't know where to begin or anything like that, but I knew, well, I mean, as you know, I apprenticed under Tyson for a while before Wave Street.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Oh, shit.
Sarcasm?
Yeah, no, straight up. I didn't know. When I met Tyson, he was a guy that used to work in the area over here. When I met him, he was just somebody that I would have to talk to sometimes.
No way, you just found that out right now.
Yeah, 100%. Like, on God, dude. I'm young now, so I can say on God. But yeah, when I was over at Artistic Element 2 over in LA for a while, and then specifically went Morris, shout out to Mauricio Bravo, was like, hey man, I'm thinking of going back to Monterey. And when he said that, I was like, all right, cool, dude, why not? Showed up, was sleeping on like different couches for a few weeks and shit, because I wasn't going to be a tattoo artist. They just invited me. And I met Tyson, I met Jose Carranza, and I met Raul. Obviously I knew Raul. And then from there, I cleared out their back room, which was full of chips from Jose's, the Mexican restaurant, and a bunch of weed. They were smoking in a room that had no ceiling, so it went into the shop anyway, and then that's how it was. But that was the very first time I ever knew anything about Tyson, and even then we didn't talk. So I thought you came from straight up, was it 831?
831
No, the other one. The one over by Venice Park.
Venice Park. I'm not familiar. I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. But it closed down not too... Like, it didn't last that long, huh?
No.
No, you're talking about First City.
First City, there you go.
No, this was prior to the First City days, because the First City days was 2015. So backtracking into 2010 when I first met you guys, that was after my brief apprenticeship with Tyson. And since he set up the whole shop over there at Wave Street with you guys, that was just like my main go-to. Like, I didn't know where else to go to or whatnot, and every time I go to you guys just to hang out or chop it up or ask for advice, you guys would always be so like real welcoming, especially Raul. Like, you, Morris, we're always more on the quiet side, but Raul for sure is always, yeah man, come around man, like you're more than welcome to always hang out and this and that. Like, any questions you have, just feel free to come and ask away, take notes, draw, whatever. But when it came to asking for an apprenticeship, you guys were like, nah, fuck off.
Well, I keep going.
Nah, and it wasn't even like a fuck off thing. I'm just exaggerating. But when I did come and ask for it, Raul was like, well, you know what, man? bring all your tattoo stuff over here and just tattoo in front of me so I can see your get down, see what you need to work on, and see what needs to be reviewed so we can move on from there. Because I showed him some of my work, and he kind of gave me some words of encouragement that I won't forget. And I don't know if I ever I must have told him this. It's been a while though, but he legitimately told me, like, you don't need an apprenticeship. You just need someone to give you a chance.
Well, I remember when I first met you, because it was you, there was Daniel Nava, Ernesto, rest to him, and there was like 3 or 4 other people that had come in. I want to know, let me see really quick as I interrupt the chat. Rivers, you goddamn liar. I can hear you fine, sorry.
Oh, hear me fine?
Oh, yeah, no, they were just the chat saying it, because I have it up for Q&A. So if you see me doing this, don't worry. No, when I met you, there was a specific time, and I have the photo of, it's Kenny, Raul, Morris, myself, Daniel Nava, and Ernesto, and we were at the Salinas Bowling Alley. And it was funny because to us, when we were growing up, and how old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, so we're only 5 years apart. It's funny to think, since I started when I was like around 16, 17, I'm not that much older than you are, and yet some of the guys around here treat me like an old head, where I'm like, fuck.
Been around for a while, man. Longer than most.
Fuck, I've been around. What I should be around is a goddamn gym. I see you at the gym, and you're pushing hard, and I'm over here being like, and I feel like that's one of the things that when you were coming around, that was the resurgence of the new generation, which now you guys are becoming the old heads because there's a whole bunch of new kids that are around. And it was different because when we were brought up, I remember Rip, Larry, but we called him Rip because he would rip you a new asshole. Rip was the type that was like, you're not going to like me at all, but you're going to work together. And you had like a Cholo-esque guy, you had a rapper, quote unquote here, Night Train, for life, and then you had a punk rock kid, and you have this establishment where it's like it's a business, and we had to learn things a certain way. So Raul has always been that type where he's like, this is where you're at, but I believe in you, but you don't have to go this way, but that way did form us. You were definitely somebody, when you came in, your work was already great. I think at the time, especially with who we worked with at the time, it was absolutely, it wasn't a great environment. Because, I remember that they wanted to hire Ernesto for a while, but Ernesto was with Kenny. And Kenny kind of became the place at Indian Ink where that was like the go-to shop if you wanted to get to Wave Street. Because Kenny was always a phenomenal artist, but there was a shot there, and then you went and did your own thing, and you absolutely killed it in your own way.
Me, I never worked at Indian Ink.
No, I'm saying you did your own thing.
Oh,
yeah. Like everybody went that path trying to get to Wave, and you did your own thing, and you fucking succeeded tremendously.
I remember when I first went to you guys. Well, when the whole instance happened, when I asked for the apprenticeship with Raul, he didn't shoot me down, but by no means did he shoot me down. He just kind of like redirected me in a way.
Absolutely.
And which wasn't, it's funny how things work in perspective. When shit happens like in front of you at that moment, you think it's like, fuck, like it's a dead end, but it's really not. You're just getting redirected. So I went back and I kept tattooing at the house for a little bit, and then the opportunity came up at First City, and this was around 2015, and that's when, the Nick Thompson. Shout out to him because he's the one that kind of opened the door for me to like step my foot into a professional environment. And once he did that, it was just, I remember for years it was like a dream to go into a shop. Like that was a goal, like a long-term goal. And once you're there, it's like, fuck, now I need clientele. Shit. That's another fucking whole nother not obstacle, but it's another mountain to climb, I guess.
Absolutely. Right? What got you into tattooing? Like, what was the thing that actually got you into it?
My earliest memory that I have of tattooing was when I was, I think, like in 3rd or 4th grade. And I don't know, like, whenever we'd be in public, like, I'd be with my parents, we'd go to, like, the flea market in San Jose and whatnot, and you see all these guys in tank tops just blasted. And I don't know why, it just fucking attracted my attention. I'd be so like what the fuck, did those come off? Like, what are those?
Yeah.
And my dad always had like a little tattoo on his hand, like it was unfinished. He told me it was supposed to be like a tiger, but he like tapped out, so he never got it done. And I would always kind of like look at that and then look at the tattoo, like what the fuck? Like, it was just intriguing. And then I remember being in like 3rd and 4th grade, I was just drawing myself when I was in class, just bored, just drawing. And I remember getting home one time and my mom was pissed. And she just kind of like grabbed the soap and just started like scrubbing me down and telling me shit in Spanish, like, don't do this, this is for bad people, this is for this and that, you know, like an old traditional Mexican mom. And I would still do it though. I would still do it, come home with the long sleeve, try to wash it off before she saw it, but it'll still be there like Sharpie, like it'd be extremely tough to take off. So I just remember pissing her off by doing that. So I was that's my earliest thing where I keep looking back at that moment, like I was just drawing myself and try to like make shit fit. And I feel like nowadays I kind of like, it comes back. So like, oh, this looks good here, oh, this looks good here, this looks good there.
It's funny, right? Because when we were growing up, how different, because you're a father, you know, if you don't mind me asking, how old are your kids?
One's 10 and one's 12.
Okay. So they're roughly in that Gen Z age where...
They're the alpha.
Alpha.
I guess. They remind me all the time. Alpha, Dad.
But they're in that age where like tattoos are so much more accepted. When we were growing up, that was like cholo stuff, where you were a biker or you were this. You did something wrong and that was a form of punishment to be labeled that. Versus now where it's like a thing where I think even now with there was an image, I know you're not really heavy into movies and stuff, but there's an image of the Crow, a graphic novel they made into a movie years ago. And he in the 90s, played by Bruce Lee's son, was like tattooed, looked like a goth guy, almost like a clown, and they really made it almost like he's edgy. So he's dark because he has tattoos. Now the new one has no tattoos whatsoever, because it's such a common thing to see somebody tattooed doesn't really mean that to like the new generation. And
it's like you're a psychopath if you don't have them now.
Yeah, it's something weird if you don't actually have those things on you. And how now you being a tattoo artist and like this is your career, it's your craft. Okay, like the difference of what the new stuff with like Instagram and TikTok and all that they try to talk about. They try to talk a lot about like ignorant tattoos, like the new styles that they're doing, and it's just like, fuck, man, it's so terrible. But you're a gatekeeper, but you're this, but you're that. Like, it's weird how they have the new generation of people have such a heavy access that we didn't when you were tattooing at home, when you were doing this, when you were doing that, and they have everything. They have a standard for what real tattoos should look like, but people will always find a cheaper, dumber way to do it. What do you think, from your perspective, what do you think really made you take that dive? Because at the time I met you, when Ernesto was still around, he was like, if I can't make it into a shop, I'm going to work at Walmart. And he was going to do the graveyard shift.
Right.
And Morris was like, fuck, no, don't do that. Like, just give it a shot. And it worked out for him.
Ernesto was super phenomenal. Why would he think he wouldn't make it?
Well, when he first started, I think that's the hard thing is...
Because, I mean, just to say it out there, bro, like, I only met Ernesto once or twice, like, briefly. Like, I never had a beer with him. I talked to him just briefly. I inked at the bay here and there, but I didn't get a chance to really meet him. Yeah.
Yeah, Ernesto was a really funny kid. For anybody that obviously doesn't know, Ernesto was this young man that was not just a very gentle soul, but he was a prodigy. Like, he was somebody that was born to do art. And I think that's the hard part, right, is you're a prime example in my book, honestly, the way that I look at how students and people and things go. And there's a lot of people that want to say they want to be an artist. They want to say they're a tattooer. And I've done this before with apprentices. I've done it before with students where you don't want it. You know, I just had a very big conversation yesterday.
They want to give it to them, given to them.
Yes, absolutely.
It's two completely different things to want it and you say you want it, but in realistically, you wanted someone to give it to you.
Yeah.
Like here, and it's not like drug dealing when someone gives you a pound of weed, like here, motherfucker, go sell it. And
you know,
it's not at all.
Yeah, and isn't that funny how that is? You have to have a hustle mentality. There's a lot of people who genuinely are always saying, well, I come from a rough background and I do this and I've done that and I've really earned myself. Then why is your life so whack? If you've done so much to improve yourself and become smart, why do you do such dumb fucking things? People don't want to hear that. And when you, like I was saying, I was speaking to my one of my old mentors and instructors about it, and the first thing that we talked about was, what is it like having to tell somebody that you're not meant for this? You know, like, how do you tell somebody you're not really meant for this endeavor? And it's hard because people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the truth because the difference is like, why is Timmy better than Tammy? Well, Tammy practices more. You know, well, why is Tammy better than Tanya? Well, Tanya practices more. Like, there's always like, what is this next thing? You just do it. And you have to like actually be accountable. Ernesto was a kid that when he wasn't good at something, he sat there until he was good. I remember when you started going to, what was it, 831?
In First City?
You're at First City. And
that was the first shop I ever worked at.
And then, what was the other one that was across from Segovia's?
That was 8318. That's the second shop I worked at.
So
that's
what
the owner, Gabe. So shout out to him too for giving me that chance.
Absolutely. And that was really when you were there, you were absolutely doing your best to like get your black and gray down, your portraits, or this and that, and then you did your tiger and lion piece. That one,
the ones on the thigh,
on the thighs, man, and those ones were fucking tough. And I remember looking at them, and I remember Morris and myself talking, seeing your Instagram, and being like, okay, look at this guy over here. And I feel like that is the hard part, right? Is where in today's age, you have to find this balance with. I'm very lucky to have grown up in a environment that was very rough on me, to say, hey man, like, the world's not going to be kind, and it's not going to be fair, and you're going to want to quit a bunch of times, and you'll get fired once or twice. Okay, but like, what you do when you come back and I see you, that's what I want to know what you're doing. That's what I want to see what's going on. And then years later, we're the product of now being the mentors or being people that help others. So when you would come around or other people would come around, it was very much like, well, this kid really wants it, dude. Fucking, yeah, what's up? Because there was so many tattoo shops back in the day that were like, fuck you, homie. I know, like, you ain't need to know shit. And that just doesn't get
that was probably like when you guys were trying to come up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fortunately for me, the only shop I would go to was you guys.
Yeah.
I think, well, other than...
Exclusive?
No, not even them, bro. Not even them when I was trying to, like, learn. I mean, they're all the way... I mean, even though it was a 20-minute drive, they're in Salinas.
Yeah.
I'm 17 years old with... like no money for the gas, so I'm sticking my ass around this area, you know. And the only shop that would seem kind of was welcoming was Wave Street, the shop that Tyson had before Wave Street. Let me see if I could. Maybe I'm thinking about. I mean, I was really cool with the local tattoo artist underground. His name was Jim. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I remember him.
Old school Jim.
Yeah. With
long hair and such.
Well, I remember him because he was around the same time as Uncle Timmy, who used to be married to Lisa at Studio 13.
I'm not familiar with the Timmy, but
long time ago.
But Jim, like, I remember going to him to ask for some pointers too. But he was just your classic biker tweaker tattooing out of the kitchen. You know, like, there wasn't really much to learn from him artistically, but technically, he gave me a few pointers. But then when I ended up with Tyson, I told Tyson about my history with Jim, and Tyson was like, "Forget everything he taught you." Like, just start from ground zero, and then we'll work our way up from there. And I was like, all right.
Yeah. And that's that's another thing, man. I've never really cared for Tyson, but I can't hate on the fact of, for anyone that doesn't know Tyson, he is a interesting individual, but you can never hate on how his work ethic is. That dude works very hard. And I think that's where someone like yourself, when you were coming up, it was a moment of seeing where Raul had to tattoo every day because of his family. You know, Morris and I were the types that we were there all the time. So whether we were, you know, rain or shine, you're sleeping, drawing, eating, painting, shitting, whatever it is, it's always artistic. Then you would go over to like Juan and them. And Juan was always working every day. And then you look at Tyson, he's working every day. it created a whole new avenue for your guys' generation of tattooers because, again, like, you're already around people who figured things out, and they're being like, fuck yeah, man, try this. I remember when I first started tattooing, one of the first 3 things that was taught to me was, you'll never use anything bigger than a 7-liner. You'll never use anything larger than a 7 mag. And
that's what they told you?
Yeah. And if you're going to break open the skin, you need to go in and take witch hazel, a cap of 25% with the rest of distilled water, and then you'd have to go ahead and just start breaking open the skin. So you would literally go over someone's back with a 7 mag and just.
That's how, you know, sometimes people give you advice to sabotage you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, bro, do this over here, and
you would and that was the funny thing is you would think that until you realize when the people that you're learning from, that's how they learned. There was nothing other. When I went to Oregon, like one of the fucking lamest states in the entire world for tattoo knowledge when it comes to like the way that it's run, especially
tattoo schools over there, right?
Tattoo schools. And I'm not saying artists. I'm talking about the way the state controls how tattooers learn. And I kept the book they make you learn from when I went to go move out there, and it's like one of them was like, you can put hydrogen peroxide on a fresh tattoo and it'll help with the healing process. The problem with that stuff is that they absolutely went out of their way to find some fucking dude who knew tattooing, but knew things that like you said, sabotage, or things that they never learned or grew from.
Don't have first-hand experience.
And then they put it right there with somebody that was official, like the governor, and they said, "Fuck it, this is good enough. Pay this amount."
Sounds like politics.
It is. It's 100% politics.
You think something like that will travel to other states, like those requirements?
No, because look at California. California, we're run by county, not by state. We have a state mandate, but the counties are all run individual. We are the strictest county in California.
As far as what, tattooing?
Tattooing, yeah. We are the strictest in the entire state. But for us, that's just standard. Like, we pay a tax every year for our license. Other places like Fresno don't. They pay $40 and they're done.
Lucky.
Well, fucking may be lucky, but you also see some of the work coming out of those places. Unless you're an American traditional or a neo-traditional, there's not a lot of good work out there. And I'll say that with fucking gusto. But again, it's because there's a saturation of people and artists and places that just don't want to get better. I'm not saying that's everybody. There are definitely diamonds in the rough. I know a lot of people in Fresno, Visalia, fucking shout out to Tulare over at Body Art Gallery. Like, people fighting the good fight to really be better than what they had. Where did you start looking at tattoos and then looking at your work and start saying like, nah, I need to do better. I need to be
garbage.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like when? I think it's been from the beginning, man. I remember starting off with coils and me thinking like, oh, I need to get the shine. How can my work could be better?
Yeah.
Having that kind of mindset, even though it's not true. It's not necessarily true, but since the beginning, I remember looking at my work and then looking like a rose I did, and then looking on Instagram, comparing it to like some big time heavy hitter, and being like, that's where I should be, or not where I should be, but where I aspire to be.
Yeah, what you strive for.
Yeah. But it must have been still from the early days. Like once I got to the shop, that's when everything kind of shifted, everything pivoted. Like you had to be open to do anything. Well, you know how the fucking struggle is when you get into a shop firsthand and you need to do everything that comes into the door, or anyone that hits you up for any little request just to get the ball rolling.
Right.
So from that point on, it was like anything, like any little thing that comes around, like I need to do this but better for the next time around. This but better for the next time around.
Yeah. So you went from Tyson's place, then you went all the way over to was it 831?
Tyson's, where I apprenticed there, and then hung out with you guys for a bit, and then ended up at First City. After that, then I went to 831 Inc., and that must have been around the 2018 era, because I stayed there for almost 3 years. And that's when I felt like me puse las pilas, you know, like I really just sat down and was like, all right, I gotta fucking make this work. Because even like it kind of felt like I left the first shop where I was working at, so I just couldn't go back. So I had to make it work there one way or another, like whether it was like good customer service or the work that I was producing, it was just like no turning back. Like I have to do it now. Like I have to produce good work from this point on. And it was a good environment for me to be in because I was there by myself for the most part. The other two fellas that worked there, they would get there for the most part on the weekends. They'll come in and out throughout the week, you know, do their appointments, but for sure it's just the weekends. So for the most part, I was there on my own, and that's where I really felt like I learned and progressed more. Just because I was really like it was just me, the client, and the artwork, and I was just putting 110% into like what I was doing instead of being like distracted.
What do you think the line between being an artist and being a tattooer blends? Because there's a lot of tattooers that can tattoo well, they can't draw. And there's a lot of people that draw well, but they sure as fuck can't tattoo.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that line is, bro. But one thing that I do enjoy seeing, and one thing that I feel like is credited more towards like tattoo artists, are people that come out with their own designs.
Yeah.
Like the originality of it, like whether they try to like take a pretty well-known image and try to just put their own swing into it, or manipulate it somehow, or you know, just come fresh, like original. I feel like that's a big thing too, because there's a lot of artists that, I mean, we're all guilty of it, but you see some of them pushing for like new imagery, or trying to like think outside the box when it comes to like a simple rose, like throw some kind of different elements into it, or depending on like where on the body too, it has a lot to play with it. That's just my take on it though, but I know there is a lot of people that draw a lot and paint a lot on their downtime. Like that's something that I need to be doing more often, because I'm guilty of not doing it. I just be lazy though.
Well, here's the thing: is it lazy, or is it just flow? Because I mean, I look at it in the perspective of how often do you tattoo a week?
Me, like at least 5 to 6 times, but we're talking like pretty long sessions, like a minimum of like 6, 7.
Yeah, so you're tattooing full-hour days. Like you actually work a full-time job because you're busting out real pieces all day. It's the same thing when I'm tattooing. I'm not tattooing for like normally 40 minutes. The shortest sessions I have on average are probably 7 to 8 hours. And by the time you're done, you're also kind of in this mode of like, I don't know.
You just want to shut down.
I just want to shut down. And you're also a father. You're a husband. You know, and you go out and you're not just doing that. You have your personal time. You have your travel time. I think you're one of the best examples, next to maybe like my buddy Joseph Cabello, or like Tony down over in LA, or even my buddy Brett, you know, and Mike, where I see a genuine amount of this is my wife. This is my family. I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy it with who I want to. Because the hard part of the tattoo world is there's a lot of temptations in not just the world, but in being lazy. You don't have to draw, man. Just fucking get your iPad and go to Pinterest and then whack.
I can't figure out well, I mean, you know how some people do some dope ass shit on iPads? Like they draw, they take hours on the iPad? Yeah. I can't figure that out. Like you know what technique I like that Morris, he's the one that put me on that, was you might have put him on that, or I mean, it probably originated from you guys, but was watercolor and dry brush with oils. For a while I was doing that. Like I was producing like a good amount of work. I started Austin Powers and the Rocky Balboa one, but I haven't gotten around to finishing it. Yeah. But it's just, to me that's like the closest medium that resembles tattooing. Right. Especially with the hand movements and like the patience that it makes you kind of like you have to abide by.
It's hard because so Morris, for anybody in chat that obviously doesn't know who he is, that is one of the maestros. One of the maestros, and one of my 4 mentors that I had, and phenomenal artist. Dude's a fucking brilliant motherfucker, but he's lazy as shit too, and I can fucking say it. I love that dude to death because he has such a good heart, but we never agreed on anything paint wise. I'm a watercolor artist, and I do gouache as well. I've gotten onto other mediums and everything, but I like seeing texture. I was inspired by a guy named Drew Struzan, who, when I first started looking at his stuff, he would gesso a panel, and then he would airbrush, acrylic, and Prisma pencil on top of that. So you would see all these beautiful paintings, he would do all the original Star Wars and original Back to the Future posters. Phenomenal, very J.C. Leyendecker-ish, or like a Robert E. McGinnis, and fucking awesome. But nothing was soft, and Morris loves soft. That's why him and Juan always got along. Juan Gonzalez, shout out to him.
Another maestro.
Yeah, one of the maestros. And it was funny because I remember us sitting one day and we had an argument. And it wasn't like an actual, like we were fighting, but it was a
discussion.
A discussion, yeah. And he was like, I like making pots of oil paint because you can't match a color. And I said it being a fucking young dipshit that I was. And I was like, if you can't match a color, you're not really an artist. And of course, we would always butt heads. But it was not that he's not an artist. He likes to work in pieces and places. I've seen Morris draw when he does stuff like Christian Casas does, dude, where it's just out there and you take a lot of perspective from your imagination. But imagination, when you're 20 years deep into a profession, becomes extremely hard when the thing that doesn't take you a lot of imagination pays you better. And I think that's the conversation a lot of people don't have. Do you want to be better as an artist if you're already making money as a renderer? So to me, a lot of tattoo artists are renderers. They're tattooers. Pick 'em and stick 'em, boys. They can immediately go into a place. Oh, I want number 32. Give me number 32. And then you'll see, traditional people fighting with realism people. And back in the day, if you use an iPad, you're fucking stupid. You're lame. Well, everybody that said that waited till one of their favorites started using an iPad. Now they all use iPads.
Everyone got one.
Everyone's got one. The skill really is if you can draw on paper or not, right? I started moving away from the iPad. I fucking hate doing art digitally. I don't understand it. I do, but I don't. Like, I know the logistics of it, but I can't do it comfortably. So I go and I started getting old full rolls of tracing paper and then just going in my sketchbooks and then just drawing everything from hand again, and I miss it. I have those things. In this case, it's hard because, like, how much do you really have to sacrifice, in your opinion, when you've spent 10, 15 years trying to do something and then you're not good out in public? Because Joseph Cabello made this point the other day when we were talking on the phone, and he's going straight to like traditional Japanese, like Jeff Gogwe did.
I met him briefly at the Philly convention.
Oh,
we talked for our booths were like on the other side of each other.
Oh, really?
And we talked for a bit, and I showed him some of my work, and he showed me some of his buddies' work, and he mentioned you. He was like, "Oh, you know X?" Like, yeah.
He's a fuck that fool. He's a mark ass trick.
I met him briefly at one of the Ink at the Bays, like back in like 2016 or 17. I mean, that was a while ago. Yeah. He just looked at my tattoo. He's like, "I've met you before." Like, yeah, like a long time ago though, man.
He is a great example of someone that's always a student. We both shared a mentor back in LA, and shout out to Tony Ramirez. But like, he was somebody that said, people that are artists tend to not want to try new things because the second they do and they're terrible at it, they immediately think that everyone's going to judge their skill. So they'd rather stay comfortable where they're at here versus the bigger picture of what they want to do. And from your perspective, what do you think is the hardest thing to have to adapt to from year one till now? Like, as an artist.
From year one to now?
Yeah.
Adapting? I'm not sure, man. As a tattoo artist or just an artist in general?
Both. Because I don't think that they're the same thing. What I tattoo is not what I actually paint. And what I paint is not actually what I tattoo,
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
I think just as an artist, just learning, my biggest thing has been like contrast and light sources. Trying to figure those out. Yeah. Creativity is another one. But it all starts on paper, right? That's exactly where it just comes from. And like I said, man, I need to dedicate more time into doing that so I can grow as an artist. Because this whole last 8 years that I've been tattooing in a shop, I've just been solely trying to figure out tattooing now. Trying to figure out how the skin works, what different kind of inks work, and seeing how things heal up. Like, I feel like I understand it a lot more on skin than I do on paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There are things where it's funny. I was talking to Barry when he was still here, trying to learn before he went back to Texas, and he would talk about how I pussyfoot in a sketchbook. You know, like when
told you that?
Yeah, 100%. And I don't disregard it at all because it's like a poor kid syndrome, right? You never really had anything nice growing up, so the first thing you do is you finally get something like a sketchbook, and you're like, oh man, this is dope. Don't want to fuck it up because you treat it so special. Then you don't want to do things unless they're masterpieces. I grew up around nothing but people who could draw very well. So when I couldn't draw, I had to basically be like, fuck, I don't draw something until it's perfect. Well, how the fuck are you going to get good? You know, like, that makes no sense.
And just the idea of trying to reach perfect is something else. Yes. Like, the whole thing about the drawing and painting thing, what's cool about it, too, is finding your own style.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of, like, mindlessly going at paper and just seeing where it ends up at, and then continuously doing that until you find a rhythm of your own. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where Casas... he came up with his own fucking style, like, just out of where, like, because I know when I met him, or when, I met him at the Ink at the Bays, he was still doing, like, the colorful frogs, like, that kind of stuff, and then it just blew up into something completely different.
Yeah, Casas is, like, someone that I talk to frequently, where I ask him questions, like, I'm on a bodysuit kick right now, and with the bodysuit stuff, I'm absolutely just trying to figure out how I want to lay things out, how I want to do this. Like, I know all his tips and tricks, you know, everything. I know every single thing that it does. For anyone that doesn't know, it's at Christian Casas, or Christian, and it goes under as Casas Inc. But all his shit is the same. There's not one thing that doesn't follow the formula of light, dark, and the light is always in the center. That's
what I mean, though. Like, he found his
niche.
Yeah, he found it.
And I know every little thing that he does to draw it. He doesn't use liners. He uses round shaders or mags. A, B, C, D, E. Here's the problem with that. Because I know all his secrets, it doesn't mean I know his brain. I don't think like he does. I don't have the experiences that he did. If you looked at his sketchbooks when we were in Rome and at the Vienna Convention, and his sketchbooks were all the frogs back then, and then some faces, and then he was tracing a bunch of supermodels' faces and just trying to understand how to articulate. He was like, you know, if you're gonna get good form, get it from somebody who doesn't eat. And I was like, but you know, like the the reality is like, look at how pronounced they are.
Yeah,
this is how vaudevillian actors or any of the Art Nouveau stuff was done. And then you started seeing where it started clicking. He put in the time, so it doesn't matter if I know all of his secrets. I didn't put the work in like he did.
Right.
I've done my own work, but I've not done his work. And that, I think, is where people get really lost in art, is if I do exactly what you say and exactly what you do, then I'll be you. And then I can learn that and become that. No, you have to be able to really just kind of fuck around and take this and say, how do these work? I don't like that. Cool. How about I take these two and that?
Well, it was like along the lines, I don't remember who said it. It must have been someone on YouTube, of course, you know, like a tattoo artist I was looking up. But he mentioned that you have to not like aim for someone, let's say Christian Casas, right? Like, you like his shit, something about his work resonates with you. So you kind of like abide by what he's doing, trying to pick, not his brain, but trying to like study him a little bit. And along the way, you'll pivot. You'll see something different, and then you'll like that, and then you'll try to like not necessarily duplicate or achieve what they're doing, but just pick something up from them, and then you pivot again. Yeah, and then somewhere along the way, you'll just find yourself, right? Your niche, your style.
Yeah, and that to me is what it's about. Like, you have to do it. Like, you've seen the sketchbooks that I have. Yeah. Every single one's a different theme, a different this, a different that, and
well, you're on that way too. You're finding.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to, because I look up to so many different artists, and I'm like, fuck, man. I mean, ironic being a fat guy saying it, but I'm like, I like that flavor of ice cream, but I like that flavor. It's like, god damn, fat boy.
It's true though, man. You gotta pick and choose. Like, you like this about this artist, you like this about that artist. Oh, I'm gonna try to add them both in my next piece somehow.
who were those for you when you first started, and where are you at now, and who you pick apart and try to learn from?
It hasn't really changed much, I think. Well, I mean, when I first started, I remember really looking up to Steve Soto, Mr. Cartoon, Bug, of course. Jeff Gogway was a big experience, just because I think I learned him through Tyson. Like all of his.
He was obsessed with them.
Yeah, but he has some good shit to say, man. That fool has a lot of good stuff to say as far as like tattooing goes. Like, I remember I bought a video that he dropped. It was called Tattoo As I See It. Mm-hmm. I bought it for like $20.
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, it was on YouTube. And now it's not on YouTube no more. You can't find it. But he still has a lot of good videos on there. But when I first started, I remember it was the Steve Sotos, some other artists at his shop, Goodfellas. What else? I said Mr. Cartoon, Bug. Some other guys at Ink Slingers. And that's all I remember from when I was starting out. But nowadays, it's still like Jeff Gogway. A lot of like his fundamentals, like just ring in my head. For sure, it's Juan Gonzalez, Eric Marcidison, and Vito.
Yeah.
No particular order, but I feel like you could throw maybe Casas in there too, just because I don't know. There's something just super like in your face, and Pina.
Yeah,
I was lucky enough to collect a piece from him, and every time he drops something on Instagram, I'm just looking at it like, God damn.
Yeah.
This motherfucker.
I feel like that's what it is. Like, for the thing that was hard for me is why I didn't stick to a lot of Chicano tattooing was because how many times are you going to do a Virgin Mary?
Yeah, that's true.
How many times are you going to do a Caravaggio or a Michelangelo piece? And then that's where your statement comes in of, well, how about you do it the way you want to do it yourself? If you could redesign it, what would you do? Versus just being stuck to that.
It's kind of tough too when let's say you redesign something like a classic Virgin Mary or something, then you present it to the client like, hey man, like I know you want this one, but how about we go a different route and just do it this way?
Yeah.
And you gotta, ultimately it's their decision, right? Unless they're like the homies would be like, hey motherfucker, we doing this one.
See, I influence my clients all the time, and I think it's the way you speak to them.
Definitely,
right? Communication, absolutely. I think that's part of the trust that they have for you as an artist, where I would say this is exactly what I think is the right way, and this is why. If they're absolutely like, no, I don't want to do that, okay, I respect it. Cool, we'll do what you do. But Chicano work is really hard because they want to look like somebody they've seen and have their rendition of it. They want to be their Danny Trejos, their Hectors. They want to be their Mr. Cartoons, Picasso. They want to look rough and tough, man. And other people just love the culture. I feel like it's hard because you have people like David Vega, or you have people like Stephen Foe, that like with their work, it's just amazing. It's huge. But after so long, it just gets repetitious. Not them, but the idea of it. And Casas brings a really nice, fresh thing into it, but now people are copying him. And they're making their own versions, which is great. Like, that's what you want. You want it to grow.
You want to influence.
You want to, but you also want to be influenced. Like, you want to have somebody that's there. And I think that's what's hard with tattooing these days, in my opinion. Like, ironically enough, I am somebody who does social media, but I don't do it for likes. I don't really give a shit if people watch this or not. Like, I care that the right people hear it. We talked about this off mic earlier.
Attracting the right crowd.
Yes. It seems like you have to be an influencer now over a tattoo artist. You know, you have all these years of like tattoo shows and this and that, like a day in the life of this, a day in the life of that, versus just doing good work. Where do you think you draw the line in your work? Like, where do you think you draw the line as a tattoo artist where if I have to do more than this, I don't want to do it because it takes away from tattooing?
As far as what goes, like social media?
Anything.
Well, no, I just get to the shop, talk with my client, tattoo him, and as soon as I'm done with him, if I have a second appointment, I'll knock it out. If I don't, then that's where I just kind of cut it off. I don't really just go home, sketch a little bit if I find the motivation or the inspiration to do so. But that's pretty much it, bro. Like, I don't really, like, you see my Instagram, I just post pictures of my work, and that's pretty much it. I used to do some time lapses which were pretty cool. I should get back on that, but it's just being more focused on growing, I guess. Like, ever since I've been at Forest Hill lately, I feel like I've been more focused and thoughtful about what I'm doing and trying to place it right on the skin and all that. So by the time I'm done tattooing, like I just clock out. Like I just don't.
Yeah, you just check out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for someone like me, I don't ever have real downtime. Like I'm always doing something, but it's part of my personality. My drum instructor Mike and I were talking about it yesterday when I tattooed him, and he said it perfectly. Somebody will go, "Hey man, do you snowboard?" And he goes, "No, absolutely not." "Oh, do you not like it?" He goes, "No, because I can't just be good at it." He goes, "We have excessive compulsive personalities.
Mm-hmm.
If we get into something, we have to fucking deep dive. You can't commit more than you already can."
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you look at artists and you say, "Fuck, man, like this person does this, this, and this. Maybe I got to do that." And it's like, no, there's a balance. You know, some people, if you check out after your tattoos, that doesn't make you any less of an artist, a tattooer, or anything than the next person. Because there's somebody out there who just draws all day, every day, and they can't do shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like their stuff's just not clicking, or it doesn't go anywhere. It's like a SoundCloud rapper. I guarantee you there's a SoundCloud rapper out there that has 425 fucking mixtapes,
mm-hmm.
and not one of them's a banger. Because you also have to have a balance with life. Where do you find your balance? As like, where you separate the shop from home? Because I think that's the biggest thing people struggle with is they don't know how to
try not to get burnt out. Is that things that take your mind off of work, off of tattooing?
What?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, is that what you're meaning?
No. Like, yes and no. I guess from my perspective, the question is, how do you help yourself from not just burning out, but not spending too much time in one camp, the shop where you're 90% of your
mm-hmm.
life, or at home where you don't spend much time? Like, how do you make sure that you're not too far on either side? Because either you suffer or your family suffers, and I think a lot of artists deal with that and don't know how to balance it.
That's that ugly kind of situation. Well, not ugly, but you just gotta find that balance, right? Like, you spend most of the day at a shop. You gotta make time for your family, whether it's like going out of town. Cause me, like I tell everyone, like my clients and my homies, like on Sundays I don't tattoo because first off I go play basketball.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that helps me kind of take my mind off of tattooing.
Decompress.
Yeah, definitely. It channels out all that. Decompress, like exactly like you said. And then after that is whatever my kids or my girl wants to do, like any errands that need to be run or anything that needs to be done, like household wise or family wise, and we just take care of it then. And then like if someone flakes on me, like nowadays I just kind of take the day to decompress too, you know, just to hang out with my family and whatnot.
Yeah. Go
shoot pool with the homies, or even if I just go shoot around the basketball myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that helps a lot to like not, cause the burnout's real, bro. The burnout's real. You should know. Like if we just fucking nonstop, just tattooing every day. Like if only we could really like oblige everybody and tattoo them tomorrow. You know, like you don't understand that I'm going into your tattoo at like 40%.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do that to you.
Yeah.
So I need to take the time away. Let me get back to you soon, you know?
And that is such a real thing because it's the generation of now.
Oh yeah.
I need everything instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right.
Don't get it from someone at 40%.
Oh yeah.
We'll see how, you know.
We've all had those tattoos and we've all seen those tattoos.
And I think we've all done them. You know, like
yes.
We're all guilty of tattooing someone. We're at like at our bare bones, like 40%, whatever. And I know me, like, personally speaking, I'm not happy about it. So I tell myself, you're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather disappoint you today than be a constant disappointment every day by you looking at your tattoo, right?
I talk about it all the time because I've had to, since I left the previous shop I was at and the one before that, when I was in a walk-in shop environment, I absolutely fucking hated tattooing. It
felt like a job.
It felt like a job, yeah. Which is different, right? Because people don't understand what that means, and
I guess that's an inside joke for us, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people now is like, I don't want to work a real job. I want to do what I want whenever I want. It's like, okay, but that comes with consequences. Those consequences are if you can do whatever you want whenever you want, whatever you want whenever you want, you have to pay for that with something. And that's either your time, your dime, or your self-respect, you know, or discipline. And I hated tattooing from like 2015 to like 2017 because I just jumped really heavy into my painting. and I was jumping more into this, which I loved. I was in the World of Pencils podcast. I was doing all that stuff, and I got to meet a lot of artists. And what I realized was, I was around clients and people that just wanted something fast and quick, and they didn't really appreciate it. Impulsive. Yeah. And I can respect and appreciate that, but it was hard too because I don't do things in my life that I don't give a shit about. Mm-hmm. When people are like, well, why don't you do this? Because they don't care.
The money's not like...
It's not my priority.
It's not incentivized for you.
No, I've never cared about money. That's the funny thing, right? Like, contrary to what you believe, like, you know what the shop looks like, and you know what the studio looks like, you know what this studio looks like, and it looks like, man, this guy's always got his money going. It's like, I am broke in a very cool way.
You're just reinvesting. It goes all back in this motherfucker, you know?
And I absolutely have this moment where I'm just like, fuck, man. As long as I can do something cool or fun, then I'm happy. When I was working at a street shop, it was so hard because every single thing I was doing, it was like, I don't care how you do it, just get it done, and I'm gonna try to shortchange you for it. And you're like, oh, fuck me, okay. Then I got into a private studio, and I had to be accountable. Then I had to travel all over the country and do stuff. And I started realizing, I was like, whoa, dude, like, what the fuck am I doing? Then I have to give a shout out to my buddy Jose, Cheeseburger Champion, where he came and he guest spotted, and he was watching me tattoo, and the first thing he said was, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, and he looked at my station, and he goes, what the fuck is that? I just had one cap out, some paper towels, and my machine. And he goes, you're a painter, dude. Like, what happened to the pallets that used to set up and do stuff? And he's like, get your fucking pallet together. So I go and I take it down, and I set up all my caps. I set up all my separators for my cartridges, and I actually took the time to set it up. And he goes, all right, now tattoo. So I tattooed, and it was the best tattoo I had done in years.
You were having fun. It was something that you wanted to do.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and that's where it's at.
And he goes, You're not a tattooer, dude. He goes, you are a tattoo artist. You are two things that make one thing happen. Don't let one of those things fail, or it doesn't come out. And I feel like that is what is really hard for artists these days. Is how do you keep producing without burning out, and how do you keep producing without losing the love for it? Because you could do this every single day for the rest of your life and absolutely fall out.
You gotta find things that excite you to do.
Yeah.
I remember there came a point where I don't remember whether it was my 3-1 ink days or exclusive days, but I remember having this like light switch come out of my head, and I was like, someone approached me with an idea, and I remember, I don't know if I was blown or just in my own head, but I was just thinking like, how would I design this tattoo like to the point where I would want to get it tattooed on myself?
Yes.
And that's how I approach almost every tattoo I do. That, you know, as long as the client gives me free range, like they give me an idea, and I'm over here thinking like, if I was to get this tattooed on myself, how would I want it to be? And that's kind of my approach. And I've noticed that every time I do that, I'm like super excited and looking forward to doing it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it comes same to communication, where you gotta tell them like, yo, it's gonna take more than a session.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna get done right away. Like, you know, this shit takes
time.
You know, there's that misconception that this shit gets done in like within 2-3 hours. Like, you know,
oh, you mean Ink Master? All right. Like,
is that really where it originates from?
I
think so.
I do. I've had conversations with people about this. Like, I hate Ink Master legendarily. I've said it on this fucking podcast many a times. Because I got to see the ugly side of it when I was working in LA, and I didn't just work in LA. I worked at like the upper end shops. Like, I worked with the creme de la cremes. So you got to see what Hollywood was trying to do at that time, and how in Ink Master they choose the winner, fucking 6 to 3 months before they even cast the rest of everybody.
Whoever has the look,
yes,
or the personality, whatever.
Personality and the skill, because you still have to show skill. But I mean, like, let's be honest. Oliver Peck, it was Navarro, and who was the other guy?
Dave Navarro and Chris Nunez. From Miami.
Yeah, and they would be sitting there, and it would show them like, dun 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 dun, and it's like they're sitting there for 6 hours. You and I have been in shops a long time. Who the fuck is gonna sit for 6 hours outside of the client and the fucking artist themselves and stare at that piece and be like, I believe he's tattooing. It's like, no fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme shit. I know.
because of that, you get people who come into shops. Well, that whole back piece was done in like a day. It was a 5-hour challenge. Maybe you're not an ink master.
Yeah. And
it's like, no, dude. Like that's TV, fool. Like that's what it is. But it's the same reason why. Somebody had told me this a long time ago for film. My buddy Justin, who works in TV, movie, and theater, and he goes, "You ever look at movies when people are in snow?" And I go, "Yeah. I watched like The Thing by John Carpenter, all this and that." And he goes, "You ever notice how none of them are ever wet? Like when you watch them walking and they're on camera, their face, their hair, their clothes are never wet." He goes, "Yeah. Because that's the scene, and then they get the fuck out of this thing, and it's fake snow, or this or that." And he goes, "Yeah, if you've ever been to the snow, you'd be wet as shit."
So
yeah, and he goes, "There you go." But we don't think about that. So when you go to the snow and you're like, "What the fuck?" People have that same impression about tattoo artists of like, "Well, I saw it this way 100 times. Why aren't you doing that?" And that added pressure takes the love and fun away from certain things in my head. I used to tell my students at seminars where I would say, if you're going to paint something, would you collect it? Whatever you're painting, would you collect this? And we're not talking about a commission. We're talking about absolutely something that you are doing for yourself. When it comes to a commission, yeah, add that factor in, but you also have the variables of your client. But like, if you wouldn't collect this in your own home, then why are you doing it? I would never collect a shitload of landscapes. But there are certain artists like Salvador Rivera from Spain who does these beautiful Studio Ghibli type of acrylic paintings. And they look like dystopian anime landscapes. And they're gorgeous. I'm doing an entire study book of just his work. I would absolutely collect that shit. I don't think I'd hang it up, but I would collect it. And so I started telling myself and eventually students, like, if you're going to do something, find a way you would want to do it, and then learn from there, and then you'll start learning to appreciate other things. Bob Ross is one of the best fucking tools to use for art. If you've never taken the chance to just go buy some paints and sit and watch a Bob Ross episode and just try it out, you'd be really fucking surprised how good you are at it, especially if you're like in the position of a tattoo artist where you don't have enough free time to paint or sketch, but you can render really well. You go and sit down and do things like, oh, this was kind of fucking fun, and then you start noticing things. You're like, I think I want to do more of this. Treating your tattoos that way, I think, is so important, like you said, because how would you want to get it tattooed? And if you don't look at it that way, then you're just not going to care, and your work's not going to have any passion in it.
That's kind of where the whole your own style and your own niche kind of comes into play too.
Absolutely.
Going big, trying to cover up as much area of the skin as possible, making sure that it flows properly, leaving skin just in case for the next piece.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of things that you kind of see, like when an artist, like, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but you slap something here and they're heavily shaded into like this back part of the arm, so whenever they're trying to fill it in, it's just kind of like poking into the stencil.
Yeah.
So you have to work around it, and that's always kind of a bummer. So you just gotta. It all falls along those lines of just finding your own niche, making your work kind of somewhat try to make it stand out as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not because of other artists, but that's just because of what the goal is,
I try to tell myself that because I these days I have more collectors than I do have
walk-ins.
Walk-ins, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. To where now all I have to do is people come to me and I love what you do with this. Could you just do something? Do whatever you want, but this is what I would love it of.
It's always cool when they come up when they tell you like, hey, I saw my buddies.
Yeah.
And they healed up good. It looks good. Like I want something similar, but just this is the idea. Just do your own thing, whatever.
Yeah.
It's always cool instead of just like some random. Well, not that it's a bad thing either having the walk-in come in, but there's that sense of appreciation that as an artist you genuinely like, and you're like, okay, fuck yeah, like it makes it even more exciting as opposed to someone that just wants the good old-fashioned Pinteresty tattoo.
Yeah.
You don't even care about what you've done or who you are or what kind of work you produce. It's like, I don't care, I just want this real quick.
Yeah. And that's where as myself I part of my challenge is having collectors now as clients who get very large pieces. You have to learn how to tie that off and allow it to breathe if they want to go to somebody else. Because now it's not just them collecting, it's another artist of a higher caliber going and looking at your work and being like, oh shit, my buddy JB, love him to death. I'm doing the 2 honey masks on his back, the bodysuit. And
how was that?
It's fun. Bodysuits are fucking fun, dude.
They look fun.
They are.
They look.
Drawing it from scratch again, like after so many years, versus getting in the rut of like realism, where I love realism. I love my horror. I love my creatures. I love all that stuff, you know. But I've gotten more into world building than I have just portraits, because I see a billion portraits. There's people getting better and better at them, but when I see an Indiana Jones for the 100th time and then they cut off at the hat because they can't draw the rest of it in, I'm like, it's cool. It's beautifully done.
You're just seeing things on a bigger scale now.
Yeah.
Instead of just
that. And what more can you do with it when you have to be creative, using perspective, using depth, using this? One of the best things that I've ever learned was from Christian, which was, so my black and gray setup is, so I'll do a drop system for the first cap, and the rest are just ratios. So the first one is, my first cap is 7 drops of dynamic black, and then the rest is distilled water. My lightest tone is a 7 drop, and it heals tremendously well. It holds, it's there, I can saturate with it, but it's a lot of hand control and movement in my shoulder and my elbow. So when I'm coming in, like, a buddy taught me this for pinstriping. So put your arms out like this. I'm telling you, put your arms out. Yeah, and then all you do is go ahead and put your arms in and try to touch your chest without bending your shoulders. That is your center of gravity. So whenever you go and pull a line towards that part of your body, it'll always be a perfect straight line.
You just gotta aim it towards that part of your chest.
That's it. That's literally it. And so when you see these guys going for these long fucking lines, just go in and you know exactly where that hits, and it'll always be perfect without even worrying about it.
Like, it's like, don't move your wrist or your elbow. Just fucking get your hand to touch your chest without moving anything.
There you go.
It's easier said than done.
Right.
Sure.
And so he goes, all right, so here's a piece of paper, here's a pencil, and just keep doing lines. No rulers, no nothing. I just kept practicing that. And I was like, wow, that's really fucking cool. And he goes, now try floating your needle that way and moving that way and actually showing what the hell you're doing. And look at how much easier that is on your wrist, your back, and your actual momentum. And I was like, oh shit, it does. There's a billion and one ways to do things, but that, especially for the larger areas,
it works for you.
Works for me. And not only do I love that, but it helps me saturate better. From there I go 25%, I do 75%, and then I do what's called a cap. It's just straight black to the top of the cap, and then it's 4 to 5 drops of water, and then I have 2 solid blacks. I have a dynamic black, and then I have a triple black by dynamic, and I have 2 rows of those. So it looks like I have a lot, but I got that from DBK and from Christian, where once your cap goes to 50%, throw it out. Or
I remember, it's funny, and it reminds me of I heard one of your podcasts a while ago with I think he's from Ireland. Matt something. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, you're talking about Matt Jordan.
Matt Jordan.
Yeah, he's from New Zealand.
New Zealand, there it is. I remember listening to it, and you guys were talking about how it gets, once the ink cap gets to like that kind of
50%,
that it's all just blood.
It's plasma.
Plasma and blood. And shit.
And so Ben K's solution to that. So I'll do this through the camera. His solution is that if this is your cap of ink, then what you're going to do is you're going to fill it up to the brim, and then whatever water you want is going to be on top for that cap. Christian taught me this because no matter what you do, how dark you saturate it, the second you put real true black to it, let alone a triple black, it'll never be as dark as those absolute blacks. So when you see him get that heavy amount of contrast that just really punches in and it looks super punchy in his depth, that's what it is. From his actual solid black, that's where you're going to go in and put your absolutes, but the tightest areas. So let's talk about a face. In the face, you're going to go ahead and look at the nostrils, the inside sides of your eyes on both ends, and you're going to look at the sides of the mouth, And anywhere we're going to get a cast shadow. For me, having 3 fucking chins, I don't have very many cast shadows. But, that being said, you punch into those areas with triple black on your second session. And it just fucking pulls it so much further. So it looks like, man, this person's got some crazy control. But it's only 3 values.
Layering on top of each other as well.
Yeah, and in art, that's just called a narrow value palette. So you have a 1 to 5 a ratio. And you're controlling how hard your 3 to 4 is. So it makes your 1 and 2 look immensely like natural and light. And so as that person ages, it's there. DB was the one that said, I will burn through so many cups. So he has 3 washout cups. He has a washout cup of soap and water. Literally just there, no green soap. Straight up like antimicrobial soap. Then he has a dark washout cup and he has a light washout cup. And what he does from there is every time he goes and he runs the needle, he'll go in, he'll work it in, and then he'll go ahead and wash out his needle, and then with the soap, and then wash out the soap in the dark cup. And then from there he picks up. It's a strenuous fucking thing, but everything he has.
Make sure that needle's clean.
Clean.
Nothing, no residue, no nothing.
Nothing. And when you look at his caps, no oil slick on top, which is the plasma. So most of these heavy hitters you're seeing saturating are cleaning the fuck out of their tubes. Then once it gets to 50%, they don't chance it. For what you're doing in your project, it's your masterpiece and the art itself. They go ahead and they just flick the cap, or they'll go ahead and get a piece of paper towel, roll it inside, and then just let it soak up, throw it away, and then they refill it up. Simple. I once I started doing that myself, my shit started coming out a lot cleaner, and the saturation was better.
It doesn't get all murky.
It doesn't get murky.
Yeah, because it's all filled in. Mixed in with the plasma.
Yeah. But the small things like that, in my honest opinion, are like what have helped me push further. You've been traveling, you've been doing seminars, you've been going all over. What are some of the things that you have learned that have helped push your work better?
I've seen other artists work in person. Seen a lot of like these bigger names, people working. Like in Philadelphia, we seen Daniel Rocha. He was working. I just kind of like glancing, just checking him out, just seeing what he's doing, seeing his hand movements. I remember like coming up, you would think that is, the questions to ask was, what kind of machine are you using? What kind of voltage are you using?
Right.
What kind of this are you using? But I think at this point in time, like what interests me more is seeing how people's hand movements are.
Yeah.
Because it all kind of just, everyone tattoos super differently, like especially when it comes to their hands. Some are really quick, some are super slow, and they all produce something different. As far as like, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve a softer look, a more saturated look, both? Like knowing when is a good time to punch it and when is a good time to just kind of softly feather it out. That's one thing I like looking at when people are tattooing. As far as traveling goes, that's pretty much the big thing right there, bro. Just seeing like the influences that I like, and just trying to see their work in person, how they heal up. Seeing a lot of healed work at these conventions are a big kind of eye opener too. You're just looking at it like, holy shit, how many sessions was this, bro? And they surprisingly they'll tell you like, oh, it was like 3.
Yeah.
Like I'm over here thinking it's just solid 1 pass. Like nah, it's like at least a minimum of 3.
And that's the thing about Instagram, right? Is I loved this conversation that I had yesterday with my buddy Mike, and just how he said it. He goes, TikTok, like how social media influences us these days, is such a fucking interesting thing. And he goes, but I don't fuck with TikTok because it's just not a format I'm into. But it's like a sentence. People just want to hear what you have to say and on to the next thing. Then you go ahead and you go to Instagram, and he goes, Instagram is a party you don't have to host, but you have to show face at. Hey, I'm here, and it's like a sentence. You read it and on to the next one. He goes, YouTube is where I've thrived for so many years, is what he's talking about for himself, because it's long format. Nobody goes onto YouTube to be like, oh, well, I really wanted to watch 5 minutes of this today. You know what I mean? Like they go for a long format. He goes, so it's hard because when you go to certain things, you have the impression of this was so quick, so so they must be super efficient. Versus like, no, it takes time. You have to get to know this thing, this person, this project. So when you're looking at pieces in person, I've seen some Nico work done 10 years ago, and it does not look the same whatsoever.
The longevity of it.
But he does his best to work it in. I've seen stuff that he's done in the past 5 years, healed, and it looks tremendous. I've seen Carlos Torres' work 15 years out, and it's solid to this day. A little bit lighter in some cases, but you can see where he took the heavy shift.
It's the wears and tears, right? People at the beach and shit.
Yeah, stuff and things that are not in the artist's control.
Yeah.
But you see as they've gotten older how they age and how they adapt to their skill themselves. I'm looking at a 20-year-old version of Ram versus a 30-year-old version of Ram by just 2 tattoos, and people want to judge 20-year-old. They want to judge 30-year-old Ram as 20-year-old Ram when they see something, and that's where I think again part of the knowledge of being an artist in any format, drawing, painting, tattooing, whatever it is understanding of like when that comes up, use those as calipers to keep yourself in check for how you move forward. You know, I have no problem doing touch-ups all the time. Like that never bothers me. I had to do this Albert Einstein portrait on this kid I did at Wave 10 years ago, and
it's been that long already, huh?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
2024.
And 10 years ago, and my lightest drop was a 1 drop, and he came and found me a year ago, and that thing was not even there. I'm not even joking. All that was there was his eyes, the nose.
It's pretty cool that he came back to you instead of.
Oh yeah, straight up. And he was like, "Hey man, you said the touch up was free. Is it okay if I can do that, or I can pay for the, like I could tip out?" And I was like, "Hey, I'll take care of you, man." And when I saw it in person, I was like, "Ooh." And but
even after a 10-year difference,
yeah,
still touch it up for free.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only reason why is because it may be your tattoo, but it's my name. And again, like I said, people will judge me. This month is my 18th year doing this, and people will still judge me at year 18 for shit I did at year 10, year 2, year fucking 7. And I feel like if that person, especially I've been very blessed to have really good clients. Hey man, would you mind? That's a difference in, hey bro, what the fuck, you know?
Almost like
a demand.
Yeah, exactly.
So kid comes over to me, and what did I learn in those 10 years? Obviously different tattooing, better saturation, better value, but also how to freehand everything much better. So I had to go in with Copics and literally just freehand the face onto him. He had the reference from 10 years ago in an email, and I redid it, and it went right back to normal, and I surprised the shit out of myself. I'm like, huh, that wasn't so scary. You learn to get through things because you still, no matter how professional someone sees you, you still have that little student mentality in your head of like, fuck, I still got it.
I think that's the important thing to always have, no matter what point in your career you're, right? Like, you gotta be hungry for more knowledge, be hungry to learn more. In comparison to where you were at 10 years ago to right now, what would be some of the things that you would give out as advice to people like my stage of my career and all the other guys coming up?
Absolutely.
To pay attention to what, or approach something in what way?
Absolutely. I'll choose 3.
Cause 10 years, bro. Like I've been. It's funny. I was thinking about it on my way over here that I'm in September will be my 9th year in the shop.
Really?
Here in this area, 9. So to hear you say 10 years back at Wave, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No way.
I got back in 2013. So yeah, 2013, 2014. So yeah, it's been 10 years, man, and it's crazy because I trip out about that myself. 3 pieces of advice for anybody in their profession as an artist, as anything, and honestly would be, 1, we'll talk about tattooing in general. 1 is, if you're going to do anything, absolutely understand it first. And I mean that by ask questions and go to people. Like, I have had the hardest time drawing snakes for a long time. I can draw them, but it takes me quite a while to get the flow. R.C. Kelly, another phenomenal artist, shout out to him. Him and his beautiful wife, Taylor, who is also an artist, came to guest spot, and I was like, man, I just fucking love the way you do snakes. I can't get the hang of it. And he goes, yeah, you can. And he literally did this giant S, and he goes, this is the spine, not the belly. I've always was taught that's the belly. And he literally just drew these 3 little circles, and he goes, over, under, over, under. It's a banner with a cylinder. And now I can draw a snake in less than 10 seconds. And I'm like, took me fucking 18 years, god damn it. And I feel like because you have that pressure sometimes of like you gotta be on your shit, you tend to not take risks asking things or trying to understand them. So first advice would be, whatever you're going to learn the fuck out of it. Read some books. Go and get some references. Go on Pinterest and save things. DB got me into my binders. He calls it like a progress binder.
What do you mean by that?
So he goes and he gets a binder, and he saves everything he can from Pinterest, from Facebook, from Instagram, whatever.
Like references?
References and tattoos in general. And then what he'll do is the reference portion is different than the tattoo portion. So the tattoo one, he'll go and pick a color palette and put it on top. Then he'll pick a black and gray palette and put it on the right side. From there, he'll go ahead and say, cool. I'm going to write down everything I like about this tattoo and everything I don't. And then you break it up by category. So now you have a whole section of flowers, and you start looking through all the ones you love, and you start noticing that you keep writing. I like when I see them having colored outlines that seem to be lined with a mag because of the weight differential.
Literally writing down
the things that you do, and then you start noticing, oh shit, I fucking love this. That's when I have to start drawing more. And you're breaking down, I really don't like when I see this. And I notice that I'm doing this more, so I got to break that apart, and I got to do this differently. And that binder has helped me throughout the years, since he's taught me that, to really look and break down what the fuck I don't and what I do like about artists, tattoos, and paintings and drawings. And that's why I've gotten to be better at my versatility, is because all I do is I'm just studying what the fuck I like and I don't. And that is probably the biggest thing. If you're going to do something, understand it. Because then you'll, again, like you said, would you get this tattooed? Okay, then why would you get it tattooed? That's the first question. Why? How? Where? When? Once you understand those things, then you make better conscious decisions. You as a tattoo artist didn't think about how a throw of a needle and a speed really mattered truly in the skin. You just cared about a number, like all of us do when we first start. What are you running it at? That's the secret, but you don't know why that matters. Second word of advice would be that do more tattoos on collectors and give them deals. I tattooed a fucking rad Bakugo on one of my clients. She is a tremendously fucking kind person, her and her husband, and they work as concierges over at Gilroy at a hotel. And Karina is her name. And she paid me $400 for an entire half sleeve. And I still do that because I needed to be able, obviously, to cover business and do stuff, but I just wanted to do something fucking rad. Try a new palette, try a new this, try a new that. And I told them, I want to do what I want to do, but I also I'm going to figure some stuff out here because I'm always learning.
It's experimental.
Absolutely.
Or what's that phrase? Like when you go to a dentist and whatever, and it's a practice.
Oh yeah, it's just, I mean, it's like a trial almost.
Yeah.
You know, but
we're going through those dark alleys or dark tunnels with your lantern, seeing what's around the corner.
Yeah, and I feel like you do that a lot when you're first an apprentice.
Yeah.
Because you have to. You have no fucking choice. But you have all, like, how ironic it is that the best time to be a tattoo artist is when you're an apprentice. Because everyone expects you to fuck up, so you could try anything to land something great, and people will cheer you on. So why would you not do that when you're actually good at something and try to keep getting better? So
expectations are higher, you know?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you have more control over those, not just expectations, but those skills.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try something, do you understand what you're trying? Do you understand why you're trying it, how you're trying it, and where the fuck you're going to take the skill, which ties to the first one. So because I know those things, I immediately say, okay, cool. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to apply it to this, and now I have to lend it out of the park because I understand what the hell I'm trying. Then when I'm doing it, I'm like, ooh, this don't feel right.
So get a little fire in their ass though to get better.
Exactly.
Sure.
And the last one is, to finish off the second one is, don't lose the ability to stay hungry by helping yourself help others. Do some grad portfolio pieces. You know, cover whatever you need to for that day, or cover your supplies. But don't lose you're never too good to practice. Because I'll tell you this, any fucking buddy you look up to in any art profession does shit and tries to pass it off like they're making massive bank because they just want to get their name out there. Those who are absolutely legendary at it, like a Tony Skelepic out in Canada, 90% of their tattoos are just hooked up on homies, and they get paid, but they don't get paid the numbers you think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And their portfolio is 1 billion times more solid. That dude can go anywhere in the world. Christian can go anywhere in the world, you know? And people are like, I want your work. And now he can balance that life.
Mm.
Last one, I think is my most important, I would give to them is don't ever worry about influence. There are too many artists, in my opinion, that want to tell you how you should do things and how you shouldn't do things. I'm doing it right now. But I believe that you should take everything with a grain of salt, and you should absolutely be in the position that ask questions, do all these things, but if somebody gives you career advice, take everything with a grain of salt. Don't be easily influenced. I had people tell me, I give this up to Jose Carranza, you actually know him, so I can say it. But Jose told me this a long time ago, and I was like, man, a lot of people are telling me that I'm doing too much with the Brushes of Doom stuff, or the pencils are about to pick me up, this and that. I'm like, and they just tell me that it's just too much. And I know where it was coming from because I should have been working harder on my art versus just sidestepping. But he goes, is anyone else doing it? I go, no, because at the time there was no tattoo podcast, there was no fucking books open or books closed podcast. There was none of this shit. I was one of the only ones doing it next to fucking Sullen, and even then I did it before they did. And he was like, well, if no one's fucking doing it or everyone's doing it, who gives a shit? Does it make you happy? Yeah. He goes, then fuck everybody else.
There you go.
And that was his thing, was like, it's cool that you can take opinion, man, because it means that you don't want it to be your way. You just want to make sure that you're on a good path. But if you think you want to try it, fuck it, do it. You fail, fuck it, you did it. It works, fuck it, you're doing it. So
yeah, it creates a lot of doubt when you take in a lot of outside opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you start, doubt is a crazy thing.
Yeah, it is.
It restrains you from doing a lot of shit that you probably would have been phenomenal at.
Yeah.
And now you're dead in your tracks.
And it doesn't do you any good as an individual to, you're never going to be fully sure about something until you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So do it. Obviously don't set a house on fire and shit, but do things, try them out, understand what you're doing, study, and then go. Because the funny thing is, the easiest thing you could do to be a better tattoo artist or better artist in general is just tattooing. Save some money and go to a convention. It's very easy. Go talk to the people. You really think that person's amazing? Just go see them. Just go talk to them. Shout out to my homegirl Morgan, dude. Morgan's from Jersey, and one of my favorite things about her is she's this aspiring little fucking spunky woman from New Jersey. Fucking firecracker, dude. But she was in a situation, from what I remember, that she was trying to learn, and then she got passed to another artist. That artist helped her tremendously. Then she flew all the way from the East Coast to here just to be like, I just want to learn. And when that girl got here, from the time she fucking landed to the time she left, her nose was in a goddamn sketchbook. And she would listen and be like, what do I do? This. But you want to correct this. Perfect. And then you'd come back an hour later after your appointment, taking a break, and it was 4 pages of just tiniest little sketches, but she was perfecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And
adjusting,
dude. And it was that's what it's about. just fucking taking the chance. So if you don't know what to do, just do it. You know,
do it till you figure it out.
till you
It's like
figure
when
it
I used to ask Juan Gonzalez from Exclusive, like, I'd ask him, hey man, what do you think about this, or how would you do this, or how can I do it better? He'd be like, just do it.
Yeah,
Just do it.
Juan,
No, he'll break it down for you, but in the beginning he'll be like, just put the ink in the skin.
his voice is very specific for anyone that doesn't know Juan, but Juan talks exactly like this with the head bobbing. He goes, yep, what do you do? Yep, yep. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna take the knife and then put it in the skin. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. And then, how do you study? Like, how did it click in your head that you were gonna do this for the muscle structure? And you go, well, I use my eyes. And you're just like, whoa. But then he would absolutely fucking talk to you about it. And I feel like that's one of the funniest things. That some of the best artists I've ever come to know and have gotten lucky to talk on the podcast with or in person over the years is just by being like, hey man, my name is X. Can I ask you a question? Simple. That's the literal fucking bread and butter of it, man.
It's the icebreaker.
Real quick, we have a few questions if you want to answer. This one is from Spock. Shout out to the OG Spock. For a person getting their first tattoo that doesn't know what to expect, what advice would you give them, especially when they don't know what to get?
Person giving out their first tattoo or doing it?
No, somebody getting their first tattoo. Like, you as an artist, what is your advice when they don't know what to get and they want to come to you specifically? Not a walk-in, they're actually trying to collect. Because you get the people that go to walk-in shops and they try to learn better.
Yeah.
Then you have this new generation of people who are like, no, I want great work.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to ask or what to prepare for.
I mean, that's kind of, whenever I get approached with that kind of question, I always usually tell my peeps that, just give me a direction. Like, tell me something that you like. Something that just, what would you like on your skin, on your arm, or wherever it is that you're trying to get. Just point the artist in a direction and just kind of let them run with it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward.
Mine would be the same, in only the difference of
unless we have like some cool pre-made things, ready to go, it'd be like show him like, hey, what about this or this or this? Like, what kind of intrigues you more?
Yeah.
And we can go through options like that.
I ask clients all the time, give me 3 photos. I don't need 50. I don't need 100. Give me 3 photos of things you absolutely love. Like, this to you is what defines what
Whether
you
it's
love.
tattoo or not.
Whether it's tattoo or not. And give me 3 things you absolutely fucking hate. Because it helps me to also understand where not to take my time and my design into that thing.
Right.
And then once you see patterns in people as an artist. And so you start telling that person, oh, I see kind of what you're going for now. And because of that, here's there. How many fucking lines of crowns have you done in your fucking day?
A handful.
Absolutely. I've done a fucking baker's dozen. And you have to make each one somewhat unique, and you're learning with each one. You're doing each one. And I asked the person, like, what's the biggest thing? I just want it to look fierce, bro. Cool. At some point, what is the real thing that you're trying? You're trying out fur textures. You're trying out mane texture, snarl. You're trying
the sharpness in the teeth.
Yep, and where the concentration of the face is.
The look in the eyes.
Yep, and that's where it becomes a better part to let us know as artists. Hey man, here's 3 things I love and 3 things I hate, because then it tells you, well, fuck it, man, I'm gonna try this. Man, I'm gonna do this. Man, I'm gonna do that. The next question will go to Pueblo Esco. What is the most challenging tattoo done so far? What is your most challenging tattoo you've done so far?
I think it comes to like the little faces, the little microscopic faces. I did this Last Supper on this pretty cool client, which, ironic enough, she was kind of my teacher back when I was in continuation school. So it was like the Last Supper here. It was just like a bunch of small faces, and that was pretty challenging. As of like my recent weeks, months of tattooing that I could think of. Snakes are always, not that they're challenging, they're just super time consuming.
Yes.
Those motherfuckers. I don't know, I have a tendency to just tweak out. Like I try not to cut corners, so I'll tweak out on the smallest things, and I'll spend like 4 hours on just like a little small area like this.
Yeah. The person's all like, yeah, wait.
And you see the whole, I think they go check it out and they see the whole stencil still there. I was like, motherfucker, you're snakes, bro. Snakes take a long time.
Yeah.
But it's not that it's challenging. It's like a lot of things are just time consuming. Yeah. And I think that's a challenge for me. Like, I'm in my own head sometimes like, fuck, I gotta hurry up. But that's like the self-sabotaging thought right there.
Yeah.
Trying to hurry up. Like, no, bro, just go smoke a cigarette outside or make a phone call or whatever and collect yourself and come back.
Yeah. For me, I think it's when you hit what I like to call because I'm playing Cyberpunk right now, I'm going to call it the black wall. The unknown. Mm-hmm. In Cyberpunk, they talk about how AI survives behind this, like, technological wall. And they don't know what it is. It's the danger zone. And I treat that in tattooing where, like, I start feeling really good. Mm-hmm. And in tattooing, the first 30 minutes, everything's fucking perfect technique. And then an hour into it, I find, like, you'll do one little thing and I'll say, I want to speed up. Nope, slow it down. Do this. And then you get to a point in your tattoo where you're looking at it and you're like, this looks good. Mm-hmm. Then you do one or two things and you're like, fuck, why the fuck did I do that? Mm-hmm. Oh, this and that. And, like, most recently I did the Native American sleeve that I'm working on for my buddy Mike. And everything in it was doing super well until I got to the cheek, and the cheek is such a high contrast, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go with this. And I hit it, and it just was a little too dark for what I wanted, and I was like, fuck, man, god damn it.
It'll lighten up, bro.
It'll lighten up, but then I ended up adding a darker value next to it that really, like, helped tone it out.
Balance it out.
And then when it healed perfectly fine. I think that any tattoo is a hard one when you're having to absolutely meet that black wall of, like you said, the detail in the snakes. Mm-hmm. You're sitting there and you're hyper focusing on something, and then you got to kind of find your balance of, like, don't spend too much time, but don't rush it either. So I feel like anything that is,
I mean, that's a challenge, like, within itself right there, trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
I remember asking, like, coming up again, like, I really like this artist's Ricardo Avila's work. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
He used to work at Inkslingers, like, high contrast black and gray, but I remember I asked him one time, and this must have been, like, my first or second year tattooing. I asked him, like, how does he prepare for a long session? And it's just with time. He just answered, with time, you get better at it. You start doing longer and longer sessions, and before you know it, you're just used to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, even though I'm going into my 9th year, I feel like I'm barely getting there.
I like a grasp on it, yeah.
Yeah, barely getting the grasp on it. Like, there's been weeks where it's like 5 days of just full days, and towards the end you feel it. I had to tell my other client, but he's a pretty cool guy. He understood, because I think we were set for some candles.
Yeah. And
there was supposed to be a dove on the inner part, but I just told him, like, yo, bro, I'm like at 40%. Like, I don't even want to start. To be honest with you, I don't want to start it because I know it's not gonna end well. Or not end well, but I'm not fully focused on it anymore. Like, let's just set up another appointment.
Yeah. And
he understands, like, I've done a lot of other work on him, so we just knocked out the candles. It took a little longer than what I wanted it to, but when it came down to the dove, he's like, hey, bro, we're still gonna do it. I'm like, yo, homie, like, let's just hit the brakes, because I'm not 100% anymore. This is my Friday, quote unquote, Saturday. And yeah, it was just let it heal up. We'll run the second pass on it and throw that dove on it, and that there. And I feel like, for me, like, if 2 years ago I probably would have done a dove, like, fuck it, let's just run it.
Yeah.
A ver como cae,
And that's where you have to know your limits. Like, that's why when I posted the video of my client's back with the two money masks, I've been going the past 3 weeks just nonstop, just having to make rent, having to do this, having to do that, and I hit a point where I was just sitting there and I just was like, I can't, dude. Like, I'm tired. And it sucks because in my head I was like, I could just get all the blacks in, because I'm going to keep my value the same. Mm-hmm. Now I have to match that value. Luckily, I know how to, but, like, to me, I'm like, fuck, dude, you're going to give out. And then I'm like, nope, because I started realizing at that point my hands moving faster because I just want to get it done. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, dude. I go, hey, with all love and respect, dude, we got to call a session here. And he was like, yeah, absolutely, dude, don't even worry about it. Younger me would have absolutely been like, fuck it, man.
Get a Red Bull or two.
Yeah, who the fuck needs to live? Yeah, but awesome, man. The next question is, this is from Reckless, number 1. Have you ever dealt with a client who has come in for multiple sessions, but after the first session did not follow aftercare protocol? If so, how do you handle that kind of situation?
I mean, fortunately for me, bro, like I haven't really had any adverse healing in a long time.
Yeah.
Like I usually just tell people as far as the aftercare goes, like you just simply need the antibacterial soap, water, the Aquaphor, the lotion, and that's it. Like don't introduce any other thing until it heals up, and of course don't go swimming or don't get sunburned. For the most part, everyone's came back with good heals. You know, not perfect, but they came back with good heals, and nothing a little touch-up can't fix.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, you know, like I don't feel like, of course, like maybe in my beginning years of tattooing, maybe I overworked something, blown something out, hamburger meat or whatever. But as far as like these last few years, I feel like everything's came back pretty
solid.
Yeah, to the point where it surprises me a little bit. And maybe it's the Saniderm or the Derm Shield or whatever. Like I like offering it.
Yeah, same here.
I don't like using it on myself. I just recently learned, but I like to offer it because I know I have a handful of clients that like it and a handful of clients that don't. So I feel like, of course, the Saniderm or the Derm Shield, it helps it heal up quicker.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the traditional way of healing up. But fortunately for me, everyone's came back pretty fucking surprisingly good. Fortunately, you know, as of recent, as far as I know.
Yeah.
No one's recently hit me up like, hey motherfucker, what the fuck? You know, like
I got this Albert Einstein from this other asshole.
I feel like another thing that kind of helps out too is that recently, bro, like I've been taking my time and saturating a lot more as far as like my pigments go, like the tones, like the dark tones, the blacks, the darks, the medium tones. It's always the light tones that come back a little lighter than what I want them to.
Yeah.
But it's always like that's expected as far as like light tones go, like your 1s, your 3s. Because when I tattoo, I use a 1 and a 3 and a 6, and I feel like those are my lightest ones. Mm. But I've been noticing that I've been using my 6s a lot lately, and my 3s here and there.
I would tell you, man, try a 7.
Mm-hmm. Bump it up. I should
bump it up to that because once I did that, I personally because I'm in the same way where I try to get that real soft area, and it works really well, especially because we have to work around olive skin tones with Chicanos. Mm-hmm. So second sun hits our skin, you don't want to let go.
And especially on that note too, bro, like like you see it, right? You see it on Instagram, not necessarily local, but just anywhere that people, when they tattoo, they don't put a lot of darks or blacks.
Yeah.
A lot of light tones, a lot of 6s, 3s, like throughout the whole tattoo. And when it heals up, it's just like completely super light. Because there's no, like that book you gave me,
Tony's.
I like how because I would always say to like anyone that asks, like black ink is the bones of your tattoo. Like if you saturate it, if you know what you're doing, like you're saturating it, it's gonna heal up as is, like black.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that on the notes, how it was like black is the spine or the backbone of your tattoo. Like same thing, like if you saturate it, if you lay it in where it should be, the healed results will come back as is, as far as like the blacks and the darks. It's always the light tones that kind of, it depends on the person's, like whether they're light skin or dark skin, the light tones always vary.
And that's the same for me. I think for myself, I focus predominantly, most of my work now has a heavy amount of like black and that cap, and then everything else is just midtones. Mm-hmm. Because I know that'll stick. So it's like working with charcoal. You're just trying to pull light out of the dark. Mm. And with that, it's helped me with the longevity of my work, and also just trying to make sure that it's not just a solid tattoo, but it's a well-aged tattoo. And I've seen, like I did the Guillermo del Toro sleeve with all the monsters and Hellboy and stuff. I've seen that thing heal 3-4 years, man, and it's like, it's solid. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy has great skin, and but that dude always is in shorts, out in the sun, out in Sacramento.
That's another thing I was gonna ask you right before. Like, you know how it's like to that question the dude asked, as far as not taking, what do you say again? Like someone that was
so when they don't take care of it, how do you handle that next session?
That can be what was that word you said earlier?
Misconstrued.
Misconstrued as like maybe just the artist went too light. Yeah. And it came back faded.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the client's fault. It's just too much light tones were used.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to reckless, if you're still in here, my man, reckless, I feel like, yeah, if you're an artist and you did something and it didn't come back the way you thought it was, then look at what you're doing there. And I would say, like, let's say you have, let's go to camera 3. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's your ink. If you're always focused over here, and this is your lightest tone, or I guess over here would be over on this side. But if it was your lightest tone, you're on the 1 and the 3 and the 5, then go ahead and just push it over to the next 3, and then work within those and tattoo it as if you were doing that the same way. If that's too light, then you need to go ahead and go here. If you can't control solid black from dark to light, it's a technique problem, because a lot of, especially Chicano artists, they know how to get solid black and a little bit of like a dip of water, and they can get super soft. If that doesn't work, then readdress the way that your drops or your ratios are done. That comes with the territory of understanding yourself. Then you have other things of where the actual client just goes out. I went to go swim in the ocean and I thought it was cool.
The day after.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, man, I just thought it was really fucking cool.
But us as artists is like, would you say that we can differentiate?
Oh yeah.
Whether it was like this motherfucker went swimming.
If I know when somebody didn't take care of their tattoo,
yeah,
and I know when they're not going to, when they're not going to take care of it, no, because they can take that off. What I do prospectively is that I tell people, look, if you don't take care of your tattoo, like when I was first starting off tattooing, I'd be like, oh man, this guy fucking. There was a guy that Raul Morse gave to me that they were like, he will pick out his tattoos, but he'll get anything tattooed on him. So practice. And this guy was just getting a bunch of freebies, and that dude would just fucking. I didn't touch it, but you would see these chunks ripped out where it's like.
Like in certain spots?
Yeah.
The same pattern almost?
The same pattern almost. And it was like, oh, you motherfucker. Back then, I didn't do it. Now, I tell people, especially because I hold myself up more to a private tattoo artist, not in a pretentious way, but more of how I present myself. I say, like, hey, man, if you're going to get something from me, you're going to pay for it. I'm one-on-one. I do this, and there's a reason why, because I like to get to know you. If you're not going to take care of your tattoos, do you have any other tattoos? And I look at how their other tattoos heal. And then I associate that with like, okay, this person can take care of it. Or if they don't, listen, man, if you're not going to take care of it, I may not be the right person for you. Because I'll be honest, after a certain while, I can tell from the way your dermis is, I won't touch it up anymore. And I lay those ground rules for that person, not in a rude way, but more of like, it's my time that is valuable. It is my headspace that's valuable. If you don't want to take care of the goddamn thing, then go to somebody else that you want to go ahead and collect a bunch of shit from, because I don't want to waste your money and I don't want to waste my time. If you can't be cool with that again, and you're going to get upset about it, then it's a good thing I'm just not going to tattoo you in general. I lay that down now in the beginning, so I don't get to that anymore. But younger me absolutely didn't know how to handle that, and I just one day started saying, no, this is where I'm at. But my work also had to be there to be able to tell that to people. You can't be doing some fucking whack-ass shit and be like, listen here, bud. You have to earn the right to get tattooed by me. And it's like, what the fuck? You can't even pull a straight line. So I do feel like if you're going to do that, shout out to Rekis. Have an honest conversation and use your eyes. You can see people's habits in their skin. You can see certain things, and being observant is going to save you a lot of trouble. I would rather give a person that doesn't want to take care of it to someone else. But third option, just in case if the person is absolutely just, it was an accident. If you drew it, you can fix it. You know, like your job is not to render. Your job is to draw. Your job is to be an artist. So if a whole part of a thing is missing, take your reference, take your fucking marker, get it out there, and then go for it and re-tattoo it again. You know, but you can tell when somebody neglects it versus something you did. If you did it, rectify that. And I'm a firm believer. I don't charge them if I fucked it up. You know, or if it just didn't, it came out lighter than it should have been. That's on me. But if that person fucked it up, it's like, hey man, just cover my supplies. Simple. It's business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's art, but it is business. The other, this is the same person, Rekis. Sorry, my eyes are bad. Reckless. Which technique, in both of your opinions, is the most important when you're creating art on flesh?
Which techniques?
Yeah. which technique is the most important in your opinion?
Like how there's hella techniques or
what
approaches?
what do you consider to be like the most important thing that you have to keep in your head
when I'm tattooing?
Yeah.
I remember Jeff Gogway said one time in one of his videos, it was just fucking a great ass video. I think it's Under the Skin, those old school Southern ones.
Yep.
I love that Jeff Gogway video because every time I watch it, I feel like I learned something new that I didn't catch the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
And I remember one thing that kind of stuck with me was how he says something. I'm saying it wrong, but we gotta at least keep in mind how you're moving your needle. Like if the reference is calling for like the flow, like let's say like the cheek right here, you know how it's supposed to go like a certain
contour.
Yeah, a contour. Like us as artists, we have to keep in mind to do that softly, you know. And you know you want to use that same kind of movement on the other cheek, or maybe like on the hair, or somewhere where it calls for another contour, right? And those are those things that the client is not gonna really pick up on. Like no one, like how he said in the videos, like no one's gonna stop and look and be like, oh, look at the way the needles are all moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
But us as artists, that's like key. Like we have to make sure that all those needles are, because you don't want to go against the grain on something like that, because then it just throws off the whole portrait or the whole flow of it.
Yeah.
So if you're moving your needle in your machine a certain way down here because it calls for it, I would say we have to do that same movement up here.
Yeah.
So it kind of matches and balances it out, and throughout the whole tattoo, it'll give it a more natural, softer, flowy look. And I remember watching that video the first couple of times. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about, but then like a few years ago, I rewatched and I was like, oh, I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I'm tattooing, that's kind of one technique that I try to keep in mind. Like as far as like the flow of the hair, the contours on the cheek, just making that needle, that machine move in a certain direction and keeping that same pace, that same movement throughout the whole tattoo.
Absolutely.
Because that's something artists will pick up on. Like, what did you do here? Like, there's something different about it. But I mean, the normal client isn't gonna be like, oh, look at the way this motherfucker kept the needle moving throughout the whole tattoo the same way. But that's one thing I feel like from the top of my head sticks out as far as techniques go.
Absolutely. And I think mine ties in exactly into yours, which is the flow of the needle and how you saturate, cross-hatching, everything like that all matters. I would say mine's a mixture between your values, understanding to like put in your mid-tones and your dark tones first. Worry about your light tones at the very end, because that to me is what, like, I try to leave a lot of open skin because that's the lightest your canvas is ever going to be. It's the natural highlight of your tattoo, so work around that to find where your meter is. But the reality is, keep a loaded tube. People will fucking tattoo and they'll go in and they'll get something done, and then they'll keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and what they think that they're getting is ink is actually just plasma fucking going everywhere.
And damaging the skin at that point.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, how come it's patchy? How come this? Because you're not being solid. If you're gonna go from point A to point B, make sure that you're saturating at 100% every time. Because if you're not, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. On that note, when you were saying that you go dark first.
Yeah.
You ever seen those like people talking about how, like I just came across a few videos on Instagram where they talk about the secret to smooth shading is breaking the skin open, everything with like your rinse cup or your one drop.
Yeah.
And then coming into it and.
Yeah, like Larry told me.
What do you think about that? Well, as far as like the contrast as starting dark first, because I feel like with people, because I like starting with my darks first too, and I see a lot of other artists that start with their darks first, and it just has like a overall cleaner look, in my opinion.
Absolutely. If you try to work in your lights first, it's the same reason why when you're doing charcoal, they recommend that you use gray tone paper, because if you draw on white paper, then you have no caliper for what a highlight is, because no matter what you add to that paper, white is the brightest thing on that paper, is the highest value. So when they tell you to go and take a little bit of graphite and smudge the paper, or use gray, because anything you draw, you have to force a highlight into it. So when you tattoo light and you're working from a 1 to a 10, 1 being your lightest, 10 being your darkest. If you're working 1 to 10, you have no gauge for how light something should be. So you may end up going darker than you should for a highlight, or you may end up having no rule how soft it should be because you're trying to force it. So if you work from light to dark, it is absolutely achievable, but it's not going to look great because you don't know how to meter your value well. Those who do know how to meter their value well, whether it's for Instagram or this or that, you will always see them work in their darker values first, like an oil painting, or like a charcoal drawing, because they want to be able to control their shapes. And when you control the shapes, anything else after that is going to be exactly what you were talking about, where if your needle, especially like if we have 2 lines here and you're going to smooth something out, find a triangle motion that you can go ahead, and so if you can move the needle from here to here, you're going in and out, hitting those edges, so you get a full saturation. That light tone you're looking for, you're never going to know how truly good that tone needs to be or solid on point it needs to be if you don't have anything darker to it or an edge to it to actually tell you what that is. So it can be done. I just don't see enough people doing it well, because I can't say that people don't do it well, but I don't see I don't see anybody doing it well now, because when you look at people doing it with like stipple shading and everything, they still buff the fuck out of the lips, the eyes, the nose, and the hair, and then the rest of it's like powder soft. But the hair and the eyes and all that are necessary, and that's why you see the face so predominant. Christian, the 90% of what you look at is just because it's what's sticking out. It's what's left.
Well, he wants you to see first.
Yeah. Exactly. Right now, let's see. Okay, I believe that is. We have a few more questions, but they said they want to go ahead and ask you guys. Oh, they actually want to hit you up. Yes, absolutely. Ram, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else that you want to share? How people can find you, where they can get your art?
Just all through Instagram, bro. Just at ram.navarro. Nice. That's pretty much the only thing I have. I want to work on the website soon enough, but when the time's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us today.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Absolutely, brother.
Anytime.
All right, man. If you guys want to find more of Ram, you can go ahead and follow him. His name has been on the screen all day. You can go ahead and check out more of his work on Instagram. You can go ahead and go and find him at Forest Hill Tattoo in Pacific Grove, California. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on the BODP this week. If you want to find anything else, you can go ahead to BrushesofDoom.com, where I'll have all the links to everything from there. And if you want to watch this, or you want to go ahead and see what Ram looks like in real life, or myself, go to youtube.com/Sacred 8 Studios, or follow the link tree at BrushesofDoom.com.
Yes, sir. Is that it? That's all?
We're still on air, but they can't hear us. Shut it down. What'd you think?
Cool, man. It was fun. For a second, I felt like it was just me and you talking again.
No, dude. You're good.
No, I mean like in a good way. Like.